Alrighty, yo, so this is going to be my last video for today, but I'm going to be giving my honest thoughts about Bready, right? You know, just my honest thoughts about her as a character in the game, how she works, how good she is. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a tier list for her, right? Because what I like to do now is probably just like the tier list every month. So whatever characters came in within that month, and whatever characters are like just going up and down in the meta, characters that are getting more use and stuff like that, probably rank it like that. I think I probably want to do a tier list where I'm ranking it based more on their meta, right? And obviously the meta can change a lot more now because, for example, I think Bready is a prime example of meta changing, right? In terms of she is a good character, right? But she's a character that has a unique kit where, depending on the characters you're using, she has a different skill set, right? So if you're using someone who buffs her up with sustained damage, she has a kit towards sustained damage. But if you're using characters who have distributed damage buff, she has a kit towards distributed damage, right? So I feel like she is a quote-unquote meta changer, and she is going to be bringing a lot of characters. Summer Rosanna is a prime example. Summer Rosanna is a character that I know I wasn't using before, right? Because I don't use her in the Kraken. I don't use Summer Rosanna. I just never found any need to use her, to be honest. But now with Bready, Summer Rosanna is a character that can easily go on one of my teams for Bready. And that's the same thing that can be said about E-Leg. That's the same thing that can be said about Mast and Anchor if you weren't already using them. And that can be the same thing said about like Dorothy, right? Because now that you're running Bready, Mast and Anchor, you might as well just put Dorothy on that team as well as the burst 1-4 bosses and stuff like that. So this is what I mean when I say new characters could come into the game and they could change the meta, even if it's just a little, right? I do think Bready has one of the most unique kits, and I do like exactly what they did with her. She did revive a decent amount of characters to an extent. E-Leg was a character who, I don't feel like E-Leg was ever dead, but I feel like she has more value now if you're using her with Bready. And the same thing kind of goes for Summer Rosanna. I don't feel like they were dead. They just came back to life, right? I really do like this character's kit. Obviously, they did change up the numbers and stuff like that before she actually came out, but I mean, she's still kind of crazy. She's still powerful. She's still broken, so I'm not upset or anything like that. What is it that I would change? I think the only thing that I would have changed about her kit is probably the sustained damage thing, right? I probably would have never made it like you need a sustained damage buffer for her to get the sustained thing. I probably would have just made it like she got this type of kit for a different buff, because in reality there's not many sustained damage buffers, right? The only one till this day that comes to mind is Summer Rosanna, and that's a limited character. So it's like if you don't have her, you're not going to be able to use that part of her kit, right? And that's the only part where it's like now it's limited, because it's like you need a limited character to unlock that part of the kit. But thankfully this character is stronger with the distributed damage part of her kit, where you can get those characters easily. You can get Mast and Anchor and even E-Leg all from wishlist modes and etc. So it's not that bad, right? She is very, very powerful. I don't think I would say Bready is a top 10 character in the game, but she could easily be a top 10 DPS, right? If you consider like the top 10 DPSs, it's probably not, because to say she's a top 10 DPS, you would have to say she's stronger than a lot of these burst 3 characters damage wise, and it's like, I don't think so. I don't think she's stronger than Cinderella. I don't think she's stronger than Red Hood. I don't think she's stronger than Raffi. I don't think she's stronger than a lot of these characters, right? If you want me to be honest. So would I say she's a top 10 DPS? No, but she is definitely, I mean, I wouldn't say no, but she could be in that conversation, but she is definitely very, very good. I think if we're looking in terms of like just the aspect of water buffing, she was a great addition to the water DPSs, right? Because again, Quincy as well, right? Mast, Anchor, distributed damage buffers. The two powerful water DPSs that we had before were both Phantom and Quincy, and they were also distributed damage buffers, or not buffers, but like distributed damage DPSs. So it's like by having Bready, now you can just run Bready and Quincy and then Mast and Anchor, and that 4 comps is like, or those 4 characters are kind of just handling these 2 DPSs, if that makes sense, right? Like the 2 buffers are handling the 2 DPSs which all equals distributed damage. So it just works out in my personal opinion, right? And then you can also put Helm on that team and work around it by slapping Crown on the team. There's so many options, right? But I really do think Bready is one of the characters that's made a change. Same thing kind of goes for Trina. Like Trina, the character who, you know, buffed up one character, right? But she brought that one character back from almost a grave. Like, I'm not trying to say Scarlet was ever bad, or I'm not trying to say Scarlet was, like, you know, a dead character, but she definitely was not as used as she was years ago, and it's understandable. But Trina literally was just that good for Scarlet that Scarlet came back as one of the strongest characters in the game. So it's like, this is what I mean, what I've been liking throughout all of 2025, literally. I don't know what Nikke's been doing, but they've been doing a great job, right? Trina helps out Scarlet, Bready helps out bring back a lot of these other characters, Mast and Anchor brings up a lot of these other characters, Mana helps out a lot with some of these older characters. I do like that, right? I do like that. They're bringing back a lot of the older characters in the game, and it's just very helpful. So honestly, I really do like Bready. I don't think she's a must-have. I think she's very powerful for water DPSs, but it's like, don't get me wrong, even if you don't have Bready, you still have a lot of other powerful water DPSs. Helm, Lamilla, Guillotine, Quincy, Phantom, Amelia, like you have some very powerful water DPSs, right? And Dorothy as well. She's not a burst 3, but Dorothy as well is another one I like to consider, right? But it's like, if you don't have her, it's okay. She is way too close to anniversary, so I can understand if anybody is going to be skipping this character, just because the next character, not the next one, but within the next few weeks, we're going to have an anniversary Pilgrim, right? But it's like, if that Pilgrim is worse than this character, which we all know she's not going to be, then it's like, what's going on, right? From what do we expect? Little Mermaid. And I'm not gonna be funny, but the last 2 half anniversary characters we've had were pretty broken. Dorothy was the crazy support, and Crown is Crown. So I'm expecting another broken support that just makes every character as strong as Bready, right? That's what I'm expecting, but if we don't get it, we don't get it. But yeah, I really do like what they did with Bready. I think she's a great addition. And for all we know, because we do know the next character is Crust, and if you guys looked at the leaked preview, Crust and Bready were on the same team, obviously, right? So it's like, my assumption is that Crust is going to just be a support for Bready and distributed damage characters, or Crust is going to be a character in the game that has both the sustained damage and distributed damage buff, and probably alternates between the two, right? Or something like that. Like, I feel like Crust is going to be designated for Bready, but at the same time, that helps out all these other characters who also have distributed damage or sustained damage. You know what I mean? If Crust is supporting sustained damage dealers, that's a buff towards Mana, Sakura, Rosanna, Viper, you know what I mean? But if she's a distributed damage character, that's a buff towards Quincy, Phantom, Scarlet Black Shadow, Bready, and etc. So I do feel like Nikke has been going in the right direction 2025 with their new characters, but hey, I am very happy with Bready. Unfortunately, I did 3 multis for her, didn't get her whatsoever, so I'm done, because your boy is not spending money. Your boy is not spending money for the anniversary this time around, right? I just don't know. I haven't been spending money on Nikke, just haven't been encouraged to. But we'll see what happens for the anniversary. You know, anything can happen for the anniversary, but it's your boy's Zxous. Let me know if you guys agree with me when it comes to my Bready take. Let me know if you guys think Bready's good or bad, if you think Nikke's been going in the right direction with this stuff and all that stuff. And like I said, I'm probably going to do a meta tier list right from now on, rather than just ranking best to worst, because it's like, sure, I can still do those, but you guys let me know. Do you guys prefer meta tier lists, like just letting you guys know who's currently meta of that month, or just the best to worst characters, like regular tier lists I've been doing? Let me know. But for now, it's your boy Zxous. I'm out. Peace.